Good evening, council and people in the gallery. I'll open the meeting now at 5:30, and the meeting is being live streamed via Zoom webinar facilities. And recordings of the council meeting or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused, or transmitted without the prior written consent of the general manager. The meeting is being recorded and will be made publicly available on council's website. Persons attending the meeting should refrain from any defamatory statements. I acknowledge that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Dara people, and I respect the history and culture of elders both past and present. And I'll call on Sam Saltneris to do the prayer.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray. Father God, we just ask you to send the Holy Spirit here tonight. We pray that you give each person here great wisdom, help them to work well as a team. And God, we pray your blessing on Oberon, that what comes out of this meeting tonight would be fantastic. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. No problem. I might have set myself shortly.
Okay. Record of attendance, we have 3 requests for leave of absence. The first one is Councillor Bruce Watt. Second one is Councillor McKechnie. And the third one is Councillor Trimbath. I'll move in seconder. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden. All those in favour? Pass. Any declarations of interest? Okay. There's no presentations. Are there any questions from the public? Right. Oh, wait. The public gallery is open to members of the community, and the community is to be given the opportunity to ask questions at commencement of the council meeting. And the mayor is to ask for questions from the gallery prior to commencement of the ordinary meeting. Members of the public wishing to address council are permitted to do so, provided the following guidelines are adhered to. The person asking the questions at the council meeting must clearly state their name and in what capacity they are acting. The person asking the question is acting as another person's or organisation's agent. They must advise the council if they have their prior consent or authority. Questions from the public are not an opportunity to debate with elected representatives or staff. It's an opportunity for the community to ask questions in relation to an issue or put a point of view relating to an issue that may be causing interest or concern. Due to time constraints, a time frame of 3 minutes per speaker is allocated. Excuse me. And all questions and comments must be directed through the mayor in the instance of question. If it cannot be answered, it will be taken on notice and a response given within a reasonable period. This is the only opportunity for committee members to address council during an ordinary meeting.
Michael Kantaris, resident and ratepayer of Oberon. Just want to say good evening to everybody on this cold winter's day. My question is that is all the communications between Stromlo, TAG, Forestry Commission and Oberon Council made public? And then my second part to this is that does the council feel that any communication between councillors or council with Stromlo, TAG and Forestry Commission should be an open forum or made public to all residents of Oberon?
I really take it on notice. We'll take it on notice and provide you with a written answer. But you'll see there are several meetings we've had that are already declared in the mayoral minute. All right, confirmation minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 18th of June 2024. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 18th of June 2024 be confirmed. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden?
Nothing there to go to.
Nothing to add. Okay. Anyone else? Put the motion on favour. Pass unanimously. Item 9.1, the mayoral minute and report for July 2024. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor McCarthy.
Second for that report.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I was just wondering, if you could give some feedback regarding the meeting with Andrew G. Black Spring Small Cell Tower, 2nd of July.
Probably the best part about it was we actually came up with another potential location, which doesn't involve private landowners. That's being investigated at the moment, and we're having another meeting this week sometime. And that's with Telstra.
Yeah.
To look at the option. Now that would be, it's not at the tip, it's not, but it is on, it's on a very small section of road reserve, which is likely in a place which is used.
Okay. And 5th of July regarding Fish River Willandry Regional Water Strategy. What was any outcome of that meeting?
That was the result of a previous meeting, which was about November last year at Bathurst, Bathurst Council Chambers, where DPI Water came along and told us what was going to happen in basically the eastern part of the central tablelands with water. They were saying it was consultation. In fact, what it was they were telling us what the decisions they'd made, and the mayors that were there voiced that opinion very strongly, and they've now come back and actually started discussing with us what can be done and how it should be done. Now, it's a reasonably small area. It really is about the Fish River and the Duck Malloy and Cox's River and how they can work together, and also the use of coal mine water.
Just in the correspondence, regarding Courtney Households, and the joint organisation, Paul's Valley, etc. The correspondence there on the 20th of June and 21st. Could I get a little explanation further into that, please?
That was a letter I sent to a series of ministers. I sent it to the joint organisation as a CC copy, and it was about the way that the community consultation revealed that Stromlo was trying to get landowners to sign up to having infrastructure on their land, particularly wind towers. Now that I made the point that was completely inconsistent with everything that has been said about this particular project. It's all about what was inside the state forest. I think it's interesting that every single letter we've sent to the ministers recently, and I say that in the last couple of years, have always been acknowledged about 2 weeks later. This one was acknowledged on the next day. So I don't think the administrative processes have sharpened up. I think that they're just conscious of what's going on.
And I just wanted to say I attended as on the 18th of June on council's behalf with Skoda Tatra. There was an incident that evening and Keith was taken to hospital with heart complaints, so I do hope that he's doing well. And it was a lovely dinner, and as well as the 21st of June with the RSL sub-branch commemorative service. I thought that was a beautiful service, which you attended as well. So it'll be really nice to see how that grows next year. Just on the 3rd of July, regarding Andrew Riggs and the Stromlo requesting an amendment to the media release, what was the outcome of that?
I ignored it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, nothing further to add.
Anyone else?
Just for general, what's saying, you wrote to the Minister for Planning and you got a response straight away. Do we always get a response from when we write to the ministers?
So this is
this is just general, not just.
No, sometimes the response can take months.
Okay.
There is generally an acknowledgement about 2 weeks after you send the letter.
Okay.
But that just says we've got it.
Okay.
And it's on the list.
Okay, just the meeting the other night down at Darassilka, Mr. Faraway denied that we ever sent him any interest letters about that bypass at Hampton, that was all. Anyway, thank you.
We have sent the ministers.
Well, he was the minister at the time.
Yeah, the minister for rural roads, so yes, that would fall under the net.
No, he denied that he'd ever received anything from council. Denied that when I wrote to him personally, that yeah, I got a response, but not from him.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, I'll put the motion, all those in favour? It's passed. All right, notice of motion, item 10.1, landscaping at Hughes Pit. The motion is that council restore landscape at old gravel quarry known as Hughes Pit and return land to original owner, the Hughes family, for $1. Move it, please. Councillor McCarthy and the seconder, Councillor Hayden. Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we've had the use of this pit in the early stages. It hasn't been used for quite some time because we're sourcing material from Whalen's Pit and the State Forest. And I think it's to show a good faith that we should spend a few hours out there, restore the pit back to a reasonable level, and then on sell it. I only nominated the $1 because I think somewhere along the line in legal terms, you've got to actually sell it for a figure. So I'm happy to support what I've written.
Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I spoke to Councillor McCarthy to get a little bit of background into the pit. I gather that council resumed that land at some stage to use it to get gravel. It was owned by the Hughes family, and I was looking at some of the reasoning behind that in utilising the area to assist some training exercises for bulldozer training, etc. I thought that was a bit of a good idea. I just second it and I support that. If it was originally the Hughes family, then I understand the nominating a fee, which is a part of the legalities. So I'm happy to support the motion.
Councillor Gibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a few questions through you, probably to the General Manager. What was the agreement when this pit was initially purchased? And I assume it was purchased for market value.
Through the chair, I have no information on the Hughes pit. It is an old pit, as far as I'm aware.
Have the Hughes family requested transfer of it back to them?
Through the chair, this is a notice of motion from the council.
Oh, I understand.
No, not as far as I'm aware.
It's not to council. So, without knowing a little bit more about the original purchase and what the terms were, I think we're flying a bit in the dark at this stage. Although I understand the intent of the notice of motion, I'm assuming at the time that we were either paid fair value or it was determined by a competent valuer what amount we should pay, but I'm not sure of that.
Traditionally, council has paid like a unit ton fee to landowners on when quarries are used on private land.
But did this transfer to us as ownership, or we were just paying them a fee? Because this talks about here, transfer it back to the Hughes family for $1, which almost looks as though that we purchased it and we're transferring it back to for a value. So I'm a bit confused.
We could own the land. Yes, you're right.
Well, I have no problem with this, but I would be suggesting an amendment that council investigate the original agreement with the Hughes family for the Hughes pit and ascertain the circumstances of the original transfer. Number two, council ascertain whether the Hughes family, in fact, are interested in taking re-ownership of this land. And three, and on what basis that be. Yeah, it's 2 points. Sorry, I haven't put that in wording before. I don't know if I've got a second of that.
That's all right, we'll just, what comes up and then I'll call for a second.
What was that? Was it the third one you mentioned?
I didn't mention the third one. The first one was the council investigate the original terms on which this pit was purchased / operated with the Hughes family. I suppose 2 is if council did purchase the land, then council ascertain whether the Hughes family are interested in the land being transferred back to them and on what terms.
We just through the chair while you're waiting. Council does have a remediation liability over that land,
Right.
and we report against that in our statements each year. So we do acknowledge it, and we do note that we need to remediate it as part of any.
Okay, so that means we don't actually own the land. We have a remediation of the Hughes family.
Through the chair, if you have any role to play in a quarry, then you have a role to play in its rehabilitation.
Right, well, I'm prepared to put the third. Council advises what remediation actions it intends to take in relation to the pit. That's the third thing. Thank you. We're happy with that.
I just like complete.
I think in 2, we add at the end, back ownership of the land and on what terms. If council did purchase, if council now owns that land. Probably goes without saying because,
Yeah, one will lead to the other.
Sorry?
One will lead to the other.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I did put purchase / something.
Council did purchase the land. Are you happy with that, council? Can I have a second up, please?
I'll second it if I can add a fourth, if councillor McKibben accepts the fourth one. So the fourth one would be advice on whether the pit still contains any usable material which council might want in the future.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Useful or usable?
Usable.
Usable, I think. Yeah.
Usable and economically viable.
Happy mover and seconder?
I'm happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment?
I don't know that it's been said.
No.
Well,
Well,
I
second, no, you're-
haven't spoken to it yet. So thanks for the amendment because it covers some of the questions I was going to ask in row. I wasn't clear about whether council does actually own it or whether we've just been using it and paying the fee or what the situation is. With the remediation, I think we should have some idea of what's involved and what the cost is going to be before we jump into it. So I agree, it's just jumping the gun slightly to just decide tonight to go ahead with the work, whatever it might cost, and then sell it for one.
Councillor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think this will be, I support the amendment. It gives us a lot more information to make the decision about.
Councillor Hayden?
Yeah, just a question. If the pit's situated on Hughes family farm, council wouldn't be able to own the area of land. They would only own quarry materials under the application
of like mining, quarry, etc., to get material, wouldn't they?
Through the chair, that's what we'll probably find out. There is mining legislation that currently exists. It may have been different when the pit was first acquired or utilised. So I'd endeavour to find that out as part of the report back.
So you wouldn't own the land, exterior land, etc., within another property boundary. It'd be just under like a licence to take quarry material, wouldn't it?
Through the chair, if that was the case, the original motion that says and sell it back at $1 would not be the case. Like there seems to be an intimation that we do own the land. The minerals under the land are different to the land, which I think is what you're.
So would that have had to be subjected to a DA to actually break that away from the farm? So I'm just a little confused in regard to that
what we're
aspect
looking at
of
here
it.
is an amendment that's looking at revealing all those things before we make a decision.
And my response just to that is depending when you developed it. Depending on it could be existing use, there could be a consent, there could be a number of things that we need to consider, which is why.
Do we know what year this was done at all?
Nobody.
Can I ask through you to Councillor McCarthy if he might know what year, Councillor McCarthy?
The pit's been there long before I ever come around open. And the reason why I submitted it to get it tidied up, it's a blight in the landscape. And I thought as a farmer and someone that likes to keep their land neat and tidy, it would be supported. And I'm sorry that I didn't consult with Councillor McKibben before I lodged my notice of motion, because I just get sick and tired of them being modified. But my intent is to try and just give the land back to the owner and let them run it as rural farm. And while it sits there and we go on about it, maybe we've got to refence it. There's a cost. But I just thought, the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. Thank you. My reply.
Anyone else wish to speak? Right, a reply?
I understand and sympathise with what Councillor McCarthy is, but we first got to work out whether we were paying a per tonnage rate or we actually owned it. And the way the notice of motion is drafted at the moment, it's confusing as to whether, because we're talking about a transfer back for $1. Well, if we actually don't own it, then we don't do a transfer back to them for $1 because they already own the land. So that's part of the problem that we need to ascertain. If we own it, or we were just paying a tonnage with a remediation requirement, and if so, then we need to know what's it going to cost and what we have to do to action it.
Okay. All right, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Councillor McKibben, Tucker, Graham, and myself. Against? McCarthy and Hayden. All right, the amendment now becomes the motion. All those in favour? All councillors stand fast. Councillor McCarthy. All right, item 11 is passed. Item 10.2, tree planting. And the motion is that council hold a community tree planting day each month for the next 12 months to assist in planting of trees designated in Council Street tree to the plan for Oberon. Councillor Hayden, seconded. Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, this is in relation to our street tree master plan that we've had an allocation of funds to for the next 2 years. I just thought that it might be beneficial, and there was some community interest out there, to hold monthly community tree planting day each month for the next 12 months. I did want to see something happen around the 28th of July, which is National Tree Day. But it's just a way to start getting the trees in and our beautification plan underway without tying up a lot of council staff, as we have a lot of works that are on, things that need to be done. And I just thought it would also harness community pride, and they would be proud to upkeep and assist in making sure that the trees are watered, etc. So that's the reason behind my motion.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, I'm supporting it. I don't think we need to meet every month, but I think push of the notice of motion is there. We've only got to see no ownership down at O'Connell on a irrigated ground, lost more than 50% of the trees down there. I think with some of this, you take ownership of it. And another part of this is we should be soon planting trees on our new sports ground. And that's where I thought some of this could fit in and take ownership. But yeah, I think this needs to be fine-lined a bit, fine-tuned. But yeah, I don't think to have a meeting every 2 months and that, but I give it support, and I think there should be some funds supplied to these people or some avenue that, as you know, when Councillor Watt spoke the other day, he's in favour of having a bobcat dig the hole before you what's saying. So there should be some sort of funds provided if this gets up to. Anyway, I'm supporting it because it's far too expensive for just our staff to keep going. And after I come through the other day at O'Connell and watching a couple of blokes lean over the back of the ute from up R2, I thought, no, these trees aren't going to get planted, are they? But someone's got to take it on board. Thank you.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I applaud the intent of Councillor Hayden's resolution. It's just that I think from our streetscape master plan, as I understand it, was using basically semi or advanced trees, and we had a plan down each of the streets, and there was a set out. But there's a whole heap of issues that we need to look at. I think community involvement is great, but we need to know that where, for instance, I know Spackman and Mossop looked at the basic location of the above ground power lines to indicate where to plant these trees. But there's still stormwater, sewerage, water, Telstra and gas, and this has to be identified in those avenues where we're doing it and where it is. So that if we decide that, yes, we're going to get community involvement this year and it's going to be this street or these areas, we need to be able to understand where all those services are. And also, Councillor McCarthy's already raised the issue about a bobcat and a post hole digger, or whether it's an excavator or whatever it is. Is that going to be provided by council, or are we looking at private people to provide it? And there has to be resources allocated. Are we going to put watering systems in? I know Councillor McCarthy said, and Councillor Hayden said, we need community involvement for doing those things so that these trees don't die. But are we considering putting watering systems? We have to guard them. At some stage, I provided to Chris Schumacher photos of the guards used in Orange to stop bumper bars damaging trees, etc. And also, if we're getting this in community involvement, which I applaud, we need some sort of coordination and supervision. Is that going to be by council or by Opta or another organisation? And obviously, we've got WH&S issues, public liability. So in light of the above, I'd be proposing an amended motion as follows. 1, council investigates the feasibility of community involvement in progressing the streetscape tree planting program, noting the program is currently in significant delay. 2, the General Manager report back to the August 2024 ordinary meeting on the practicality of accelerating the program utilising community involvement.
You happy with that?
I'm happy.
Seconder?
Possibly subject to a minor amendment.
Indeed, Councillor Tucker.
No, I just wonder if we should remove the bit about August 2024, whether that might be too short a time to allow that report to be prepared. And I'm interested in the GM or the director's views. If that is easily done, then I'm happy to leave it in there.
Through the chair, I think that it'd be tight given a further report that you'll probably consider tonight. If it's taken out, it still doesn't mean that we won't try and deliver it at that time. And I'll give my staff all the opportunity to be able to provide that information, but I'd rather do it once if that was the case than drip feed information just to try and get a report back. But my intention would be to report it to the next if you go down this path. Yeah.
Well, if Councillor McKibben is happy to remove that as a deadline in the expectation that it will be presented if possible, then I'm happy to second.
I am, but I note that we'd be passing this to a new council if it goes after that.
Yeah.
I also note, and I think this may have been part of what certainly Councillor Hayden was saying, is that we are in significant delay in our streetscape planning, which I agree, and so that I thought we could try and turn it around quickly. So maybe if we say as soon as practically possible or something similar.
That's correct.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that. The wording sounds a bit odd because we've got practical.
All right, we'll say
That
as soon as feasibly possible.
Yeah.
Feasibly.
Yeah. And I'm happy to say that if.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, we've probably all seen the emails in the last couple of days, and I had very similar thoughts about it. I absolutely applaud the intent of wanting to encourage community involvement, community pride, and I'm sure we all share the frustration with how long this has been going on. I think the report on the streetscaping, it's got to be 2 years ago now, and we keep getting told it's going to happen in autumn, then winter, and then spring, and now we're 2 years down the track and still nothing has happened. So I understand the intent of wanting to push this along. I'm just not convinced that this is the way to push it along. I remember back, when I was working here, anytime something like this come up, suggesting community involvement, my heart would sink because I would know it was going to increase workload substantially, and to organise all the materials, deliveries, and checking tickets and doing white cards, and you have to do that every time because there might be a different lot of volunteers the following month. And it sounds like it's going to ease the workload on council staff, but it doesn't. It increases the workload, in my experience. And I'm interested in the GM and the director's comments on whether they agree with my experience or whether they think it is going to save reduce workload.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've organised many tree planting episodes with volunteers in a past life, and I would agree with Councillor Tucker. It's hard work on the staff, and I think this motion saying that it's really up to the staff to recommend that they would like to use volunteers or not. I think that's the way to go rather than imposing them, because it doesn't necessarily make it faster or make it get done properly. There's a fair bit of training involved, and so I would support this recommendation.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against it?
I see that Councillor Hayden's trying to move things forward and get things done, and that's why I support it, and I don't support Councillor Tucker or Councillor Graham's thing, because you sit here and you don't get the trees done.
Right, reply, Councillor?
No, I think I've said my piece.
Okay. Of the amendment, all those in favour? Councillor McKibben, Tucker, Graham, and myself. Against Councillor Carthy and Hayden. So the amendment becomes of the motion. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Okay. Item 11.1. Local Government New South Wales Rural and Regional Summit. Recommendations. Council received note the delegates report for the Local Government New South Wales Rural and Regional Summit held on the 9th of May 2024. Councillor Hayden. Seconder. Councillor McCall. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, this is just delegate report. As you know, when we attend a summit or a conference, The delegate is to provide a report back to council. This report outlines the day down at the Rural Regional Summit, and I tried to brief things as much as I could, and sorry for the length.
Thank you.
Pretty straightforward report, thank you.
Anyone else? Council Grant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't like that. Thank you, Councillor Hayden, for the report. Extensive and interesting reading.
And nice photo on page 55. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to thank Councillor Hayden for a detailed and explicit report. But I do have a couple of questions in relation to it, if I could. Halfway down page 40, above the photograph of the Minister for Local Government, there's a comment there in that the Minister's quoted as saying, Code of Conduct reform was harder than he thought, stating council meetings should look like the third tier of government and to treat meetings as being democratic and not a code of meeting practice, so that councils look like a source of power and therefore look and act more professional. I'd just like an explanation as to, and not a code of meeting practice. So, what does that mean in relation?
I can't, through the chair, I can't actually explain what he was talking about. There were quite a few of us that were a little confused with the comment. He's also related that comment previously to that conference, to that summit as well. I think he was trying to reiterate the importance of the 3 layers of government, and instead of relying on the code of meeting practice, which can not be as strong as sometimes with debate as the other levels of governments have. That's all I could take in from it on the day. Whereas in the other levels of government, they have quite heated, quite strong debate that can sometimes be a little over the top. I think he may have been talking about something to that degree. I can't 100% tell you what he was thinking when he made the statement.
Okay, thank you for that, because I was, I read it and I was confused.
Could ring him and ask him perhaps.
No. And I assume on page 54, halfway down, the under the photograph there again, it says Matt Lanyon, New South Wales Reconstruction Authority, stated. Should that be the Act?
Yeah, it's the Act. That's why.
Yeah, but it's in Article 30. Oh, okay. Well, it looked like ACT, and then it should be, but then you've got underpins with a capital U. So I was, okay. So that means it should say New South Wales Authority states the Act underpins what the authority mentioned the state disaster can and how to mitigate the risk. Okay, I'm happy with that.
Sorry about that. That's why I put the dot in case people were confused.
Okay, that's all I have. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion's carried. Item 11.2, Black Springs Community Association. Recommendations of council receive and note the delegates' report to the Black Springs Community Association meeting on the 13th of May 2024, and receive and note the delegates' report to the Black Springs Community Association meeting on 10th of June 2024. Councillor Hayden and Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, apologies for putting both these through together. I did miss sending May through previously as I was a little bit busy, but I think the reports speak for themselves and I don't have to go into too much detail.
Councillor McCarthy.
Pretty straightforward report.
Anyone else? No other speakers. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion is passed. Item 11.3. The Oberon Business and Tourist Association, the recommendations that council received and note the delegates report to the Oberon Business and Tourist Association meeting on the 4th of June 2024. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I know that I didn't attend the previous meeting as I was in Sydney on the Rural Regional Summit. Throughout this Opta meeting, there was discussions around the Opta Business Awards. I added a note in there because the dates and timeframes around the business awards have changed significantly a couple of times. There was a closing date of the 24th, which was notified as the 26th, and it's now the 19th of July as the closing date. And there were some discussions that the awards were going to be held at the end of August, and they will be held on the 6th of September, and they will be confirming the venue for that. So far it is the RSL club, but they will confirm. I think the rest speaks for itself. I added the president's report because that can be quite lengthy, and also there was some discussion around doing logos, so I supplied that for council as well.
Thank you. Councillor McKee.
Thank you as well. Seconding this, but I have a number of questions on it. Page 63, third of the way down. I'm assuming that the word report is missing there after treasurer's report, and it should be possessive S, should it? The treasurer's report was given and accepted.
Yes, sorry about that.
And I was a little confused, and I know this wasn't your comment, but I was a bit confused about the meaning. Mr. O'Connor, I think, is standing for Oberon against wind farms. Well, I know he is. He said that there had been a void provided by Forestry Council, but then later in the next paragraph, he suggested that members log on to the council website, Development and Control Plan 2005. This sets out what the wind farm should look like. Well, I thought he was Oberon against wind farms. How can he say that's what it should look like if 2005 DLP? That seems to be contrary. I'm just asking a question if you could clarify that, or was that what he said?
Through the chair, if I may answer, Councillor McKibben, I can't make comment or statement on what Mr. O'Connor states. He has stated previously that he believes that council's development control plan is an exceptional development control plan and sets out areas in there where wind farms should go. As you know, when people are speaking, perhaps it hasn't come out in the way he may have wanted, but then I also do have issues whereby if you are over and against wind towers, you shouldn't make statements that state you're not against wind towers.
That's what I was trying to clarify. I'm just a bit confused. I
can't answer that in briefing.
The other thing I was a bit confused about, and I know we sit on these bodies as providing objective comment, but under the end, towards the bottom of page 63, there's two references. Council delegate gave a brief verbal report as the president was rushing to get meeting done, and visitor info report, none was given due to the president rushing the meeting.
Correct.
Are they normal comments you would make as an objective comment by someone attending a meeting?
Well, that's what happened. I can't put it any other way. That is what happened on the night.
You generally temper your comments, but considering that the president is the chair, the criticism of the chair, it should be directed directly to him.
Yeah, exactly. Not
It was as well. But it's my report, so I've written the report.
Anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed. All right, item 11.4, Arts Out West update. The recommendations that council receive and note the delegates' report for Arts Out West, and two, enter into a new memorandum of understanding with Arts Out West for a period 1 July 2024 to 30th of June 2028. and delegate to the general manager to sign all appropriate documentation in relation to the new Arts Out West MOU. Moving seconded. Councillor Graham, Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I think it's important that we review the memorandum of understanding with Arts Out West. Oberon community does get quite a lot of benefit from Arts Out West, and there's a lot of other councils involved in it too. And it's been going for, we've been contributing over many years, I understand, and I think we should keep doing.
You. Councillor Tucker?
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 12.1, committee reports. Community Services Committee meeting of the 9th of May 2024. Recommendations of council receive and note the minutes of the Community Services Committee held on the 9th of May 2024. Councillor Graham, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Graham.
Yep, we should receive the note and note the minutes. The main thing from that particular meeting was organising the Community Service Expo, which since those minutes has come along in leaps and bounds and seems to have a good number of people coming to it. So it looks like it'll be well worth attending. But we just have to make sure everybody knows about it.
Councillor McKibben.
I'm more than happy with the report. Thank you. And very pleased to second it.
Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Katie for this report, and I too am looking forward to the Community Services Expo. I did have a question through the chair to Councillor Graham, if that's okay.
Yes.
This is going to be held at the library, isn't it? Yeah. Will we have enough room at the library for this?
Yes, because you've got the room, you've also got this. Yeah.
Okay.
And all the little rooms.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
I agree that it's great work getting that up and running. I'm looking forward to it on the 20th of August.
15th of
August, sorry. Anyone else? Put the motion all in favour? That's unanimously. All right, item 12.2. Black Springs Community Hall Committee meeting on 6th of June 2024. Recommendations of council receive and note the minutes of the Black Springs Hall Committee held on the 6th of June 2024. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I think the report speaks for itself. There's been further discussions with the BSCA in regards to the A-frame, storage and upgrades there. So over the next month, there'll be some upgrades there with new frame put on all of the history. And yeah, I'd like to thank Matt and the team for that. Thank you.
Councillor McKibben.
No, I'm more than happy with the report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else wish to speak? No, I'll put the motion all in favour. Passed unanimously. Item 12.3. Councillor Brown, you have a
alternate motion.
Alternate motion, I understand.
Would you like me to read it or put it on the screen?
Well, you can read it if you like, but I think when you put it on the screen is probably a more efficient way of doing it.
The only difference is that 3 and 4 are slightly different to the original. So the first two are the same. Well, I read the third one. The council acknowledged concerns raised by ARIC in regard to the need for councillors to be provided with clear responsibilities under the Code of Conduct and related legislation. For future induction of councillors include specific workshops on Code of Conduct and the responsibilities of councillors under the Code of Conduct with specific reference to risk. Number 4, in light of the risks involved in this decision, council take the proper account of realised risks to staff, and that council recognise there is an impact on staff and ensure there is sufficient support for those impacted. And then 5 and 6 are the same as the original.
Yeah, there is a 6 in the original.
Oh, sorry. There's a 6, there was an addition of 4.
Oh, okay.
So that was the addition.
Right. Okay.
Do I have a second? Councillor McKibben.
I would like to request though that there be.
You want to speak to the motion first?
Oh, yeah, I guess so. that would be a good idea. I think since we've had the update of our risk appetite, I think it's important that we do all our motions and resolutions should relate back to that risk. And it probably hasn't happened in the past, but we should be more aware of it now that we've updated that. And I think that's what this motion is doing. And also the fact that we're looking at the induction process for councillors rather than doing a workshop now, we've sort of run out of time, that making sure that the new council has that information.
Councillor Gibb.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be asking that in relation to, if we could have the policy back up, I think in relation to 4, it should say staff and councillors.
Great.
Impact on staff and councillors to ensure there is sufficient support for those impacted. So I'm asked the mover if she's happy with that. Yes, look, I was obviously member of the Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting that held on the 27th of June, as was Councillor Tucker. The issues that arose were because of the council, and I'll deal with the resolutions in relation to the playground. The issue was that ARIC considered that we may have deviated from our risk profile and not taken proper cognizance of work health and safety issues in making the determinations, which were unanimous, I believe, in relation to the playground on the 21st of May 2024. And they believe that because of those, we may be imposing unrealised liability on staff, councillors, and the council as a result of those. It was explained that council had resolved to allocate more funds to the playgrounds to seek to address some of the issues. However, even in light of that, as an advisory board, ARIC suggested that really keeping some of these playgrounds open in the state they were would be placing staff, as I said, staff, the council and councillors in a liability position, which was really untenable. Hence the recommendation from ARIC as it's stated there, which is basically now all of them except 3, 4, and 5. In relation to 3, 4, and 5, and again, it revolved around the playground. Obviously, some interactions were included within the board papers that went to ARIC, that ARIC had some concern, and again, more in the light of work health and safety and the ability of council to retain staff and to ensure that staff are not exposed to unreasonable issues. And in light of that, they suggested that councillors should undergo further training. And they are also wanted to ensure that councillors were clear, had understood their responsibilities clearly under the Code of Conduct and related legislation. So hence the gist of 3 as it is now, albeit slightly amended, was pushed through what ARIC considered was essential in the light of the material that they had seen in the board papers for the ARIC meeting. Also, they believe that as a result of the material they had cited in the board papers, they believed a councillor interaction policy be developed to guide the behaviour and interaction between staff and councillors, and that was necessary. So there, the essence of what came out of ARIC, of the ARIC meeting, and the reasoning behind these recommendations that are before us. Councillor Tucker may like to elaborate further, as he was the other attendee at the meeting.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I was going to comment not so much on numbers 3, 4 and 5, but I did want to elaborate on numbers 2 and 6, which specifically relate to our previous decision on playgrounds. So I think the ARIC members were under the impression that council had decided to leave those 6 playgrounds, the contentious ones that where there are safety concerns. They were under the impression that we had decided to leave them open and operated. And that's not the case. We explained at the meeting that no, part of the discussion was that until such time as we make a decision on what we're going to do with them, whether it's possible to repair them or whether we're going to replace the equipment, that in that interim period, they should be either barricaded off or you might remove swings or something like that. It's just that part of what we discussed didn't end up appearing in the resolution, so it wasn't obvious in what ARIC saw. So I think they were somewhat reassured to know that that was the intent, that those playgrounds wouldn't be used or usable in the interim. But their advice was that we need to make sure that in that situation, the resolutions do clearly spell that out, because that is essential to protect both staff and councillors. That was all I wanted to add. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll just make an observation that this is what ARICs are meant to do. And that's what was, I think, an excellent outcome. Was a slightly contentious issue. But I think that's a good resolution now out of it. And I will also note that the next ARIC meeting is under completely different rules. The only council member will, there'll be one councillor available. Sorry, one councillor on the ARIC. And there'll be 3 independent members, and the one councillor is not allowed to be the mayor.
And they can't vote.
Sorry.
And they can't vote.
And they can't vote here. So you can be your representative. We have one representative, but not a voting representative. I'm not sure that it'll change the outcomes much. But if Officer Local wants to have it that way, well, that's the regulator. So, you'd like to reply, Councillor Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it was important to have that information from the people who were at the meeting. So thank you.
I thought we were just moving an amendment and then we can.
No, this was an alternation.
Right, because I wanted to ask the question that's in there that's quite important.
Well, we've been through the process for an alternate resolution, and we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you.
And I send my query to the general manager and get an answer on that, please.
Please, that will be the report for decision. Item 13.1, electric vehicle charging strategy. The recommendation is that council endorse the proposed electric vehicle charging strategy to guide the development and delivery of electric vehicle infrastructure for the community. Prioritise the Lister Information Centre and Oberon Library as suitable locations for an application under the New South Wales Government Electric Vehicle Destination Charging Grant Scheme. Continue to investigate the viability of the Tallies Lane and Dart Street car park sites, and a report be provided to council prior to any project progression in these locations. Note, the electric vehicle initiatives are outlined in the previously endorsed Oberon Council Renewable Energy Action Plan. Moving to second, please. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Graham. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've looked at the papers and various papers on this, a very detailed paper some time ago, and out of that charging strategy, this recommendation has come from council, and I think it's an appropriate recommendation for parks as it stands. Thank you.
Yes, I think it's important that we look at the library and the prison information centre first, because they don't seem to have any issues with them, whereas the others do need some more investigation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I'm happy to see number two here about the prioritising the visitor information centre in the Oberon Library. I do, however, still have concerns about offering any of the infrastructure for free. I do believe that any electricity is a cost. I don't believe that this council needs to be a fuel provider, of which charging any EV is providing a fuel. So that is just a statement that I'd like to make in regards to that all of these things are costed and charged accordingly.
No else?
Yes, I'm happy with the ones highlighted in the report. I don't think we need to go overboard at this stage, because as you drive around town on a day like this, and you're looking for parking spots, there's that many disabled ones sitting there with no one in. And it's a pity that you can't come up with some alternative that, you know, maybe someone can slot in there for 10 minutes or something. But I'm happy with this report, but I don't want to see it go overboard that provide these charging stations and they take away from the general car park.
No else? There has been a bit of discussion in the last little while about actually putting some charging points in the new sports ground. We'll have a look at that, and that will be included. Should be feasible. All right, I'll put the motion all in favour. Thank you. Pass. All right, MOU with the O'Connell Cricket Club, the O'Connell Recreation Ground.
I have an alternate motion. Sorry?
Sorry, found it 141.
I have an alternate motion. I'll put the motion first. The council, the one is the council explores fully the intention to enter into an MOU with the O'Connell Cricket Club. 2, council delegate the general manager to negotiate an MOU with the O'Connell Cricket Club with sufficient detail to be able to set out each party's responsibilities. And 3, the finalised MOU come back to the August 2024 meeting for approval by council. The reasoning for this is that I've looked at this document and I'll second.
Well, you'll move to. We've got a second.
So this is a motion now, isn't it?
It's an alternate motion.
Yeah.
Councillor Hayden, you'll second
it. Councils will remember in relation to the yarning circle, we had some issues on the MOU, and this has several of the issues there. But I also think, and I fully support the intent, as I think I'm sure Councillor Hayden does. It's just that I think we need a bit more detail as to each party's responsibilities and what we're intending to do there. Obviously, council remains probably primarily responsible for this the rec ground, the O'Connell rec ground, and the cricket ground. Reading the agreement, all it basically said is there will be some shared responsibilities. I just think we need to go on a bit further as to what each party intends to do, because I had no idea after I'd read this. And as I said, the sign-off is as though it's a deed. It doesn't have the normal clauses that this is an MOU with. It's not intended to create legal relations and all those other necessary things. I did send an email, and I'm sure councils have seen before, which talked about a whole heap of things that I thought should at least be addressed in a schedule to the MOU as to what the intent of the responsibilities was. Were O'Connell Cricket Club people operating our plant? Were there going to be plant there for them to operate? and how far did it go, just the cricket ground, or did it go to further areas of the recreation? So I think all those things need to be discussed and worked out to some degree. I realise they may not be finalised to the minutiae, I'm not talking about that, but I think it needs a bit more than it is, so that's why I put this sort of motion.
Yes. Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I agree with most of what Councillor McKibben has mentioned. When I looked at this, we didn't have it in the paper, so thank you for sending it out so promptly. There doesn't seem to be much depth or thought that has gone into the MOU as it stands. There's no direction in it. We've got to also look at the people that may be doing the work. There is also WHS implications there and around any licenses or white cards that the associated people who were the people going to be. So I do think this needs to be planned out a lot better. I think it was just rushed, and the idea behind it is great, and I understand that it will be helpful, but then again it may, as other things and has been discussed earlier in the meeting, it may create more issues and more work for council down the track if the people doing this don't have the qualifications that are required to look after a ground of that depth. So I do understand why this needs to be looked at more deeply. Thank you.
Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's a very similar comments to the previous one about tree planting. Everyone's all keen at the start and organise all the training and everything, but 6 to 12 months down the track and someone has an accident and turns out they weren't part of the original group, and who's then liable, and plus potentially someone's got hurt. So yeah, I had just very similar concerns with this if we had been entering into it as it currently stands, as I did on the tree planting one. So I'd like to see the amendment on screen if I can.
The old accounts.
Yes, the alternate motion. But I'm pretty sure I was okay with it. And I guess just the same question about is August 2024 enough time to do that? Any questions for GM?
Once again, we'll be looking to get as much back to you guys as we recognise the very comment that you made about where and when.
I'm prepared to provide some assistance if that's required.
Be prepared to accept that assistance.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against this?
So I'd like to see it come back to the new council to authorise it myself. I don't think it's going to distract anything from the current people down there, the good intent, but so I think it needs a more tighter control on what they're going to do. Whether they're just going to maintain the oval or they're going to maintain the whole area. And I think it should come back to the other councils, new council, so I'll be voting against them.
Okay. I support the intent of this MOU. I agree the draft that's presented to us by the Cricket Club was deficient in content, and I think that's fixable. The difference between this and our previous discussion about volunteers is that these people have come to us as opposed to us going to the community. So I think there's quite a good intent there. Do you wish to write a reply, Councillor?
No, I'm happy. I suppose the only question I have is the general manager, through you to the general manager, is obviously because we're aware of this, August would be a good time. Is that feasible? And I think Councillor McCarthy will raise that.
He's bringing the MOU back to August, except as I said before, we'll be trying to get all these back to you in in an efficient manner. So I'd suspect that yes, is the
Should we add the words, if possible? Or are you happy with it as now?
Or change
So
it,
that
come
was-
back to the next available ordinary meeting.
Well, I think it'd be good if we could do it, but if we can't, I mean, we don't want to. Yeah.
through the chair, the next available ordinary meeting is the ordinance.
Next week. I just put again, could come back to August 2024 ordinary meeting if possible for approval.
I wouldn't.
I'd like that in there if it's possible. Change my way then.
I mean,
It's just to even planning meeting and possible.
Yep. After possible.
And then after possible. Perfect.
Thank you. Do we have you on board now, Councillor McCarthy?
Yes.
now,
I'm happy with it. Yes.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Good work. Good work. Item 13.3, the records and information management policy. Recommendation is that council place the draft records and information management policy in public exhibition for 28 days and submissions being invited to council during that period. If no submissions are received within the exhibition period, the policy be adopted as presented and delegate to the general manager to amend any minor changes proposed. Who is second? This Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did read through this, and I do have some questions, but I think what I'll do is I'll raise those with the general manager outside of it, just clarity on a couple of issues. It doesn't change the essence of the policy, which I think is required, and so I'm more than happy to move this.
Yes, I'm happy to second regarding the policy. It is important to have this policy. I did have a query regarding, I didn't see anything in here about backup data. So I'm just wondering, do we have something in there regarding a backup if in fact our system was to go down? And I'm only looking at worst case scenario. Everyone seems to be going digital. It seems to be the digital age. Everything is stored digitally. If there is a massive virus, which people have been talking about, and I'm sure there's little people out there that want to do things like that. But if something hits our system and our system goes completely down, and there is nothing accessible or may not be accessible for a week, 2 weeks, up to a month, do we have ways and means of dealing with that situation? Is that in this policy?
Yeah, through the chair, 4.1 in the policy highlights the solutions that we have in terms of backup components that run on top of the backbone, I guess, of this whole records management piece. So
they're digital as well, though, aren't they?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So have we got a non-digital system? Because if something affects the digital side of our record storage or the digital side of the council operations, what have we got something written into the policy in place that we can be, that staff and so on can be directed towards? Because if there is a complete shutdown or a whole system down, it means that your backup's not available because it's digital too.
Yeah, so
that was just my.
To the chair, yeah, I understand the question for sure. The digital that we're talking about is a decentralized layers. So there's multiple cloud ecosystems that.
What if the cloud's not there?
If all of the 3 layers of clouds go down, then there's some probably reasonable significant problems for a lot of industries. So there's security and backup are the full intention of this policy, and that's why there is a decentralized solution available.
I do hear you, as you know, I am hearing you, but there will come the day, being a digital age, that the whole digital system will go down. and there will be a crisis across the board because there will be nothing that will be accessible. So I'm just looking at, as you know, worst case scenario and how we could be one step ahead of that and have something written into the policy that gives a guideline so that this council can just continue business as normal without that.
So just through the chair, I think that the council, every time we've come to you and we're looking at more how we have developed our cybersecurity policies, how we've developed our cybersecurity framework, goes a long way to try and minimise. I'm not going to say it will, but we've certainly invested quite substantially in trying to protect ourselves in that cyberspace. That is the way that we are looking to additionally add value to these types of things. So
I appreciate that. I really do, but I'm not talking about our cybersecurity. I'm talking about a complete digital shutdown across nations, maybe.
Well,
so there are possibilities of this occurring, and I just looked to the worst case scenario in that regard. That was all, and I just want people to have that in front of mind as a thought process.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. We've got that in front of mind. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Right, reply.
Just to say that I think, as well as council, ARIC is always reviewing as part of its role, our backup and risk mitigation procedures in relation to cyber and fallout if our data storage facilities, which are not within council, fall over. So we're looking at that all the time to mitigate those. And they've looked at that quite extensively, and as has been mentioned, cybersecurity has been a major consideration for ARIC in the last 2 or 3 meetings since I've been there. So yes, I think we're probably as well placed as most organisations, and it's certainly been indicated by ARIC that we're as well placed as most organisations that the independent members sit on. So I think we have covered that off pretty well. Okay.
All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 13.4, change of council meeting date, August 2024. The recommendations that council endorse the proposed change to the August 2024 ordinary council meeting from the 3rd Tuesday in August, that's the 20th, to the 2nd Tuesday, being August the 13th, to allow for continued business as usual outside the caretaker framework. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
I think it's absolutely appropriate in the circumstances. We do not want to be having a council meeting in the period when really there's an issue about whether certain determinations could be made by council. So we want to ensure that we don't get into that difficult situation. So I applaud this and say that August the 13th. I know that for most of us, it's already in our diaries and TV.
Yes, I'm happy to second that. We'll be going into caretaker mode after this meeting, so it's imperative that we get some of the other stuff out of the way during this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I support it. I just wanted to point out that typo in the first paragraph comments. It says the caretaker period starts on Friday the 13th, should be Friday the 16th. And that was all. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor McCarthy.
Just wonder if the mover would take a little back on that. In September, we move back to the normal 3 weeks.
No, because it's not going to happen in September.
Okay.
We have no meeting.
Okay.
We have no meeting.
The other advantage of this meeting is that the way it's structured. The New South Wales Electoral Commission structured the dates that they will not declare the polls until the 3rd of August, the 3rd of October, which means we can't have a meeting in September.
Fair enough.
So this also has if we don't do this, we will not have an effective meeting for nearly 3 months. And that's not necessarily a good thing. So this provides us with an opportunity to tidy up any issues that we need to tidy up on the 2nd Tuesday in August, and then get on with the election and the latter part of September and the first part of October, while the electoral commission is sorting out how the voting is gone. Then there's a meeting in October, which will be the meeting which some of you should all remember is that where we basically swear people in and we elect a mayor and a deputy mayor and we do the committees, and that's pretty much what we do. Oh, sorry, and we give the general manager his delegation so we can keep spending money in an appropriate way. And then the first real meeting is November, which is also brought forward, which has also been brought forward a couple of days, a couple of weeks, or a week. All right, anyone else wants to speak on this particular item going forward? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. All right, item 13.5, ARIC membership appointments and continuation. The recommendation is that council appoint current independent members the current independent member Kylie McRae as the Oberon Audit Risk and Improvement Committee chairperson. Appoint the existing independent Audit Risk and Improvement Committee member, Deputy Mayor Andrew McKibben, as a non-voting councillor member for the remainder of the term of council, and formalise the reappointment timeframes for the current Audit Risk and Improvement Committee independent members as follows: Kylie McRae from 11th of September 2024 to the 10th of September 2028 for 4 years, and Ron Gillard 11th of September 2024 to the 10th of September 2027 for 3 years.
Can I move with an amendment, please? But subject to getting comments back from the GM or deputy or the director. I would be proposing to add a fourth part of the resolution, which would cover filling the current vacancy for the third position. So we discussed it at ARIC, and I was expecting there would be something in this report, but it isn't. And so I don't know if it was decided that wasn't necessary, but I've got an amendment or a wording ready to go if that is appropriate.
So through the chair, through the minutes of ARIC where that was discussed, is probably is where you made that decision. So having it in here would certainly just add value to the ARIC minutes, because I think that you're right, it's a little bit hidden and you want to make it as public as possible.
Because it is supposed to be a council decision.
Correct, absolutely.
So I would add a number 4, which is that the vacancy for an independent member of ARIC be filled, if possible, through further consideration of the unsuccessful shortlisted applicants from the previous round of applications. So I'm happy to move it with that number 4.
Yeah. All right, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. Seconder?
I don't think it's appropriate. I second
No, it's not appropriate for you. Councillor McCarthy. All right, Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Adding that number 4 was just so that it is clear that council has actively decided to use that process to see if we can fill that, what we now have as a vacancy, without going through a whole advertising and application process again, given that we went through that fairly recently and that there were a significant number of very good applicants. So it would save time and it would save money. And the only other point I was going to make was about number 1, appointing Kylie McRae as the chair. I think that's very good. I think it was of the few ARIC meetings I've attended, I think this was the best one, and I think that was largely due to Kylie's chairing.
She's a very, very impressive member.
Yeah.
Councillor Carter.
I'm happy with the report and I'm happy with the amendment. made the change. Thank you.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you. In relation to one, I would say that I think we're very lucky. We have two, I think, excellent members of our committee, both Colin Cray and Ron Gillard, have both, I think, provided true value to Oberon as Narek. And I think we're very lucky to have them. I think it's appropriate in relation to three that we extend their periods, otherwise they'd be ending right in the middle of when a new council comes in and commensurate with the changeover. So if I had any doubts, or I think if there were any doubts in relation to the two members, different story, but I have no doubt whatsoever in relation to the abilities and expertise of the two members that are there and for extending their periods.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else?
And I do endorse, I think it's appropriate, the fourth point that Councillor Tucker raised in adding to the recommendations.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passing unanimously. All right, 13.6, request to rename a section of road of.
I have an amendment to this. I did do a marked up version of this, which included just some changes to this, but also slightly in the recommendations. I'm happy to put the recommendation for you to put the recommendations they are, but I note there were some typographical errors in them. If you consider those minor, I'm prepared to put the recommendation and those typographicals be corrected.
So are you going to propose an or just want me to read it out?
Well, it's whether you would like an alternate motion or whether you're prepared with this with the changes.
We'll do the changes in this. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, recommendations that council endorse the request and name for the change of the request, endorse the request for the change of road name.
Yes.
Place the request on public exhibition and provide the community an opportunity.
With an opportunity. Yes, sorry.
Community an opportunity to comment upon completion of the public exhibition and
period.
The exhibition period. Yeah, okay.
And providing there is.
And providing no objections to the request. There are no objections to the request. Provide an application to the geographical based on the request. Okay. Got all those?
I'll forward them. So they,
Okay. Okay. Seconder.
I'll put it. You see.
Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Mayor. We've dealt with this before. It's come before us before. We went back and said we appreciate a formal request from the Borough District Community Station. They've come back, they delineated what they want to do with the road. It's now up to council to go to the Geographical Names Board for consideration and see if that board will accept what is proposed in the full naming of the road. More than happy to move this in three parts. Thank you.
Yes, I concur with what Councillor McKibben has said. Support behind this application to rename the road Billy Flower Drive. I also had a look at the Geographical Names Board, and I wouldn't think they'd have a problem with Bill Flower Drive, considering they have James Roos Drive in Sydney.
Yeah. Probably named the bomb.
Just let me use that one, okay? That's my speech.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Councillor?
No, I'm happy with that. I'm just taking on board the comment. Seeing where we weren't allowed to use Graham Drive because in Oberon.
Yeah.
And turns out we've got an Inverness one, haven't we? You get the Inverness Street and that is
you just don't get the driver's street, you just got to put the name up.
Okay, all right.
I'm happy to support it.
Happy to support it. Anyone else wish to speak? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. Reports of information. Item 14.1 is monthly activity report for the General Manager, July 2024, and the recommendation is that item 14.1 is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move recommendation to accept the report. I'm just wondering about the work health and safety activity on page 156. The first bullet point about the public liability claim referred to the Upper Lachlan Council. I was reading and I just wondered what that was about.
Through the chair, there was some damage done on the causeway between.
No,
it was done right on the Abercrombie River junction between Oberon and Upper Lachlan on one of the minor causeways.
Geelong Road?
Geelong Road, yeah.
Okay.
So it was forwarded to council, but it's an Upper Lachlan matter, so we forwarded it to them.
right. Okay. Now, on the 2nd of July, I know you're a bit busy, but the meeting with Elise Freeman of PJAR, what was that in relation to? Is there another issue regarding the yarning circle?
No, through the chair, it was the signature of the MOU.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So it just took a little longer than expected to sign off.
Nothing further.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just wondering if the General Manager could just give us an upgrade on the Oberon Sports Ground and how we're going with inspection oversight of the project by Bathurst Regional Council and where that's going.
Yeah, so through the chair, the project, as you're aware, couldn't be assessed by our own appropriately qualified and professional staff because of the nature of of who was lodging it and the construction certificate opposed. So we've had to get outside assistance to be able to do that. My understanding is it's progressing quite well, and Borgs and the builder and Bathurst have been liaising quite successfully, so that shouldn't be too far away. The DA, as you're aware, has been finalised. The early earthworks DA has been completed. They are progressing quite quickly at moving towards a second application associated with all the underground infrastructure, car park, and that sort of stuff as the next phase. And you'll probably see quite a bit of movement on site over the next couple of weeks about things being brought to site.
Depending on how wet it is.
Oh, well, I think the particular people that are undertaking this project are quite keen to do it regardless of rain, hail or shine.
And to ensure that are we happy that we're getting the assistance we need from our probity advisors and from PWA in relation to the project?
I'm comfortable with how the PCG, which is the Public Works processes, are communicating with us and being part of the solution.
Right, and that includes PWA.
That's also sorry. Yes. PWA.
You said PCG, which is
the
Project
PCG
Control Group.
is the group.
Project Control Group.
And how PWA are being part of the solution.
Right, so they're being proactive in there.
Very proactive and very happy with how this has progressed.
Thank you. Well, I think that's good to hear because we know that this is a unique project in relation to the probity requirements. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all. I'm more than happy to second this report.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? Last questions? Councillor McCarthy?
Just have we got confirmation from Transport for New South Wales and the police about entry into the sports venue? Has that been finalised?
Through the chair as finalised part of the DA, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Pass unanimously. Monthly activity report planning and development for July 2024. Recommendation is that item 14.2 is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to receive this report. Thank you to our planning director. I did note that the Oberon junior fitness that was occurring was going down quite well. And I did have a query from a member of the public regarding access with their son after hours. So their son's a particular age and the person was attending the gym, but can only do it after their work. And there was difficulties around her taking her child, that is a particular age, to the gym at that time, said that he can't attend, he can only attend during staff hours. So I was just wondering what, through the chair, through the planning director, if I may ask that question. You can explain to me if that's okay.
Through the chair, there is a industry-wide policy that persons under, on my understanding, 16 cannot attend the gym, as you indicated, out of staffed hours, or so within out of staffed hours. So therefore, that they would have been advised that when they signed up to be a member as part of the agreement, that they could only, those under that age could only attend during staff hours.
So they can't attend with the parent. That was what the query was around, because the parent goes to the gym after work hours and was told that the child, who is a teenager, can't attend the gym with her, can only attend in staffed hours. So if you don't know, could you get this
take it on notice, and
advice on
if
that?
they're with their parent, they should be able to attend, but I'll take it on notice.
If you could, that would be greatly appreciated. And yeah, that's about it. Great report. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Just, it's a good report that page 163 and 164 just highlights, shows us what we should be knowing, goes on. Amount of activity without that report. I see one councillor wants it taken away from us, but just shows you what activity is going on in Oberon. A lot of stuff.
Anyone else? Motion, those in favour? Motion is passed. 14.3, monthly activity report for technical services, July 2024. The recommendations at 14.3 as received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
I'm happy to move the report and thank our technical services director for it. I did have a couple of queries within the report. I noticed that our mulcher has been parked up for a while because of the wet weather, but my queries are relating to gravel road maintenance and some of the resheeting. With reading the report, it would look to the public that we have been resheeting Beaconsfield Road, Bastard Point Road, Isabella and several other roads 3 or 4 times this year, as this is the exact same gravel road maintenance that has been in the reports since May, and I do believe a lot of this work was done in April and early May. The emergency storm damage work, Mozart, Murray's Lane, Isabella, Mount Olive, that was all in June paper. I did want to see some more current updates in the report, if that's okay for next month. I do notice it's a bit of a copy, and I wanted to also ask, there was no mention of the weighbridge in this lot of papers. Has there been any update on that? Because as of May paperwork, it was stated in that paper that due to the delay in installation, it was anticipated to be in by 30th of June. So I'm just wondering if we could get an update on that as well, please.
Yeah, through the chair, as we discussed last week on the informal briefing session, there is no further update compared to the last update on the weighbridge.
The chair, I propose to put an update report on the weighbridge for council's consideration in August.
That would be much appreciated. And also, some issues raised through the IBS about some repairs or maintenance issues that was down at the Reef Reserve. I noticed there was nothing in the report in relation to that as well. I'm just wondering if any of that's been rectified as yet.
So can you please repeat?
The barbecue and any update on the shower facilities at the Reef.
We're going to have a side meeting through the chair. We're going to have a side meeting this week.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Gibbon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was also going to raise the issue about the weighbridge, because I noticed it also is not in the status report. Also, I assume that the report we get in August will deal with the weighbridge. I assume that we have now power to our premises at the tip, to our office that's there.
Through the chair, I said that as part of that, we'll do the report back on the weighbridge.
That'll include that?
Yep.
So line power has come to our office?
Yep.
And the situation with the weighbridge, that'll all be incorporated in that report?
Correct.
I note, if I could, the issues we've previously had with fisheries. Have we received the permits we required at the top of 171 now from fisheries to clean these culverts out?
Through the chair, there have been 2 fisheries permits applied for and approved, which was at Shepparton, also Springmont Road and Norman's Hill.
Okay, so that one up here has been, so the 2 have been issued there that are talked about the top of page 171. Noting that we've had issues before in relation to Baldridge Road, and noting that we have had waterway crossing storm damage on page 172, do we anticipate having to get permits there again, or having amended permits? Because I think at one stage they said we shouldn't have put in 2 round culverts there in replacing one, didn't they? Is this likely to cause another issue?
Through the chair, as this report states, we have an structural engineer assess those 2 culvert crossings or waterway crossings with the aim to apply for funding under natural disaster to have works rectified. So obviously each time we undertake works, that requires a fisheries permit. There was a report last month under confidential on those remediation orders, and obviously one of the conditions is that any work that's undertaken requires permit application and approval.
So for every culvert we do in our council area, we now require a permit. I thought it was only on permanent
these ones specifically. However, there is different classification. I cannot recall from the top of my head what the document is called, where fisheries or DPI specify where fish passage is an issue and where isn't, and it's classification from 1 to 5. I think 5 being the highest impact and 1 being the lowest. And depending on where it's ranked, that determines our communication with fisheries.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, but I also know that one of the areas we're having difficulty was on Baldridge Road, and I think it was in this culverted area that we've been fined for.
Yeah.
So
the very thing we're trying to fix with them,
and are they likely to ask us now to pull this up and put square culverts in, for instance?
Through the chair, that's still something that we're progressing.
Okay, we'll leave that. I'm more than happy to second this report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Packer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions for the director. The first was also about that bottom of page 172, waterway crossings. I was just a little bit unclear. I think I followed, but I just want to check. So it talks about 2 crossings, which I assume were the 2 causeways that were the issue with the permits, but then it talks about bridge decks, and I would never have thought of crossings of that type as being bridges. So is that just a terminology thing? So I just want to make sure there's no issue with the bridge.
It is not a bridge. No, it's the bridge deck. So I think it's the terminology, not the bridge.
I would never even think of referring to that as a bridge. But just looking at the picture on the bottom left, So clearly that has been built without a cut-off rule to prevent that sort of scour, which would be the normal practice in that situation. So I assume a detail like that is part of what this structural engineer would be advising us in, but to build it, so you have your slab, and on the upstream side at least to have a cut-off wall going much deeper down into the ground to stop that under scale.
My understanding currently the assessment, sorry, through the chair, the assessment currently is only the damage that occurred on those bridges or culvert crossings.
Yeah, but
there is currently no proposal to get a design to rectify it.
Well, it talked about provide recommendations for the replacement, so I just wanted to check it would include that sort of feature.
In how detailed that is, I'm uncertain on that. I haven't received that yet. But the aim is to provide that to the funding body to obtain funding to replace those.
Through the chair, it's very clear when you start going down the path of natural disaster funding, they won't give you money to rectify something that potentially could happen again. They'll give you funding for what has been damaged. It would be something that Cornelia could take on notice in terms of, well, if that is the case, what would we potentially need to do to stop this in the future?
And that's the point of my asking the question as well. My second question, Mr. Mayor, is page 176, the second last item talks about the smoke testing. Do you have any idea of when that will start, and has an area of town been selected for that program?
Through the chair, I believe I provided an update in the Newsweek on that one. So there was 200 properties identified for smoke testing and 2 mains for cleaning and CCTV camera footage.
The reason I asked the question is that the director presumably wouldn't be aware that there was some previous smoke testing done. I believe it was around the Balfour Street area. And as far as I know, that whatever came out of it was never implemented. But if we can find that previous testing, it would avoid us doubling up if we had any thoughts of doing Balfour Street in this program. And so it was just to let you know that that area was previously smoke tested. That was all. Thank you.
Anyone else, Councillor Carthy?
Yes, I'd like to find out why the power that's connected at the tip's not being utilised over at the where you go into the tip. Apparently this afternoon it wouldn't accept EFOS. Yeah, because the batteries are just too low and power's connected at the tip side over on the meter box. Why it's not continued over with some sort of changeover switch so we can switch the generator. What's the name? Like, you know, we've paid a monumental amount for this power to get connected, and it's not connected where we think it is. That's
through the chair. All that information will be provided to you in that report.
Okay. And the other one was, we got a handout the other day. Do we have to give a preference to which path we want to see done? It's the 3 alternatives, isn't it?
Is that your?
Well, through the chair, that my understanding is council has decided on where the 46,000 for the footpath should be allocated, for none of them are an option because
Overruled.
Decided by all of you.
You spent your money.
No.
Okay.
Adequately allocated is the term.
Okay. No worries.
Thank you. Okay, motion, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. 14.4, monthly report corporate services for July 2024, and the recommendations that 14.4 is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation to receive this report. I can see that our corporate services director will be very pleased when his document migration is complete. And I'll also be grateful when the Civica platform will be terminated, because it still pops up as a startup every time on my computer and takes forever. So that will be great. We can delete that then. So thank you. I did want to congratulate Councillor Graham on the Waste to Art awards that she's given out to the schools, and that's a really jazzy photo, and I love the matching boots. So, thank you.
Fashionista. Councillor.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. And I'm more than happy to second this report, which is probably shorter than normal, and it's very punchy and gets to the point. In page 5, page 179 at the top, I note that merchandise sales for May were up 41% on the same time, even though visitor numbers are down by some 20%. So that mean all our visitors are spending more money in the area than anyone's ever done before.
Through the chair, that's our new visitor centre is contributing heavily to that. So, yeah. But
I hope it's not all coffee sales.
That nice scarves.
Thank you. More than happy to second this.
Anyone else? Put the motion, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. Investments. Report for July 2024. Report item recommendations. Report item 14.5 is received as information. And Councillor McKibben.
Yes.
Councillor Tucker. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Note everything's going along swimmingly, and that the interest rate we're receiving on a number of our investments is obviously in the 5s now, rather than where it was previously. I still note that we've got a number of funds invested, which were subject to a loan for the STP, and I note the previous comment that we're not losing money on that money, so that's good. Interest in it equals interest out, which is good. So, but obviously we'll have a better idea in August as to where we go with all of that when we have the report on the STP, which I assume is still coming in August. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor, anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion passed unanimously. Item 14.6, the grants update for July 2024, and the recommendation is that item 14.6 is received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Tucker, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move this report. It is disappointing to see continually how rural councils seem to be so unsuccessful in the numerous and many of these grant rounds. One here, Country Passenger Transport Infrastructure Grant Scheme. It'll be interesting to see how that works out, because we don't really have many transport services here. I know council was waiting on some update as well, which I must do a report and get through to council when I attended the housing webinar last month. That is extremely sad for our rural regional councils. There won't be anything to help us in affordable housing. It's mainly going to be directed to the metropolitan and coastal regions and larger councils, and it's going to be more around social housing aspect. They did say, however, that we may be able to get some assistance working with a provider, but it's highly unlikely. So I'm extremely disappointed as to how the grant funding and the allocations are being done, and I do hope we get some break with some of the grants that are here, but I don't hold a lot of hope in that. Sorry.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I second the motion. One question relating to safer local roads and infrastructure program. So we're partway down page 184. So it says that staff have been participating in webinars and evaluating opportunities under the grant. Do you have any projects in mind at this stage, and what are the dollar amounts potentially available?
Yeah, through the chair, Councillor Tucker, the staff were probably not at the identification of projects phase at the time of writing this report. one of the things that we're really focusing on is there's a lot of the grant programs are requiring a different variety and depth of data and understanding about the application as to how a significant investment will lift the safety rating or productivity. There's a lot of technical elements to that, and so the staff are working through different portals, IRAP and those types of things. So we're rounding up the last few of those this week into next week, and that will give us a better understanding not only what we can identify as a project, but can we actually support what our justification, what we're putting forward, and that's one of the things that we're finding across all the grant programs. So we will no doubt have a list, a short list coming up, but we really need to understand how we can make our justification much stronger in these merit-based programs. So
is there a dollar amount set on those applications, or minimum or maximum?
I think there's a $5 million ceiling on those ones for memory on the on that program.
Can I just throw a suggestion in to the mix? If we could consider the upgrading of the causeway on Sewells Creek Road at Brisbane Valley Creek, because to my mind, that would tick the boxes under road safety and productivity and resilience and bridge renewal.
Mm-hmm.
That was all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was, as well as Councillor Tucker, interested in the Safer Local Roads Infrastructure Program. And I was actually considering whether our Campbell's River Viaduct might fall within that. And also what's happening on Arkstone Road with our slippage, sorry. So they're two projects I was sort of thinking might fall within that. If I could please, halfway down page 185, we've got this EOI expression of interest over on hockey pitch and facilities. We expected some sort of indication as whether I think we've been included in the final grouping in July. Have we had any update on that since this report was written?
No, through the chair, they had no update on that grant program. I think what we've generally seen is notifications are coming 2 to 3 months behind timeline pretty much across the board. So that I don't believe that'll be any different on that one at this point, but no update on that one.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the General Manager, at what stage do we really need to know for our program on our sports complex as to whether or not we've been successful on that to not cause delays or cause double work if we get the grant, but they've already had to proceed on the basis of not knowing, and so you know, is there a time frame?
Through the chair, the two projects have been isolated,
right?
So the timing isn't critical at this point in time. The only let's say the
move infrastructure off site, it's or plant off site, etc. That can be weird.
Or competing interests delivering on the same project.
Yes.
As part of the probity and our delivery of this project, it's been talked about. So there is provisions in place for that, for the facility to be isolated, so both projects could be delivered at the same time. I'm sure it'll be required.
Thank you. Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else? Motion, all those in favour? Motion is passed. Status updates, item 14.7, recommendations that 14.7 is received as information. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've just got a couple, please, on page, I think it's 194. In relation to the RFT for curbside garbage collection, will we be considering tenders at the August meeting, or will that be subsequent to that?
Through the chair, it'll be a council decision. Yeah,
New council.
I don't think that by the timing and the panel to get onto it, it'll be a new council decision.
Thank you. Did we, at the top of page 198, did we actually prepare a further response yet in relation to that comment by the minister that we needed to work with PWA to minimise our concerns with their performance in relation to our STP?
Yeah, through the chair, that's been significantly delayed by some illness in that particular area. So we'll get the other one getting a little bit out of that person again.
Okay.
I'll chase that.
And I think you've mentioned in relation to page 13 that we're expecting a report, and second row from the bottom, that we're expecting a report on the STP as normal in August at this stage, and we're on track.
Yep.
The only other comment I made is I thought we had actually had the weighbridge in our status report at some stage, and it seems to have fallen out, but maybe I'm wrong. I think it was in a previous report. I didn't have time to check it. I apologise. Maybe that can just be looked at.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hayden?
Yes, just a couple of queries in here. I won't be too long. The business case on the land at 34 Glendoyer Avenue. I note that the general manager's comments on the 15th to 5th and 10th to 7th regarding new grant opportunities. Just wondering whether we should make a determination on that apart from the grant opportunities, because we've kind of already been told through different housing webinars and at conferences that there isn't really going to be anything allocated to small regional councils in regards to doing some affordable housing. So I'm just wondering if that can come back and we can progress to do something further with that.
So through the chair, the reason why I put that in is because there are opportunities around additional housing and critical infrastructure that we're currently looking at. And the offset is that both go hand in hand. So whilst looking at the STP as a critical infrastructure item, we need to link it to potentially housing opportunity.
Work housing.
So we're trying all the things that we possibly can to link those two things together. And
in regards to the one opposite the skate park, would that be
same
under the same scenario? So the Greaves Road, is that due to get gazetted now? Has that been finalised and closed off?
Yeah, so there's a couple that have been completed by our legal team, and now they progress to gazettal because of the way the change has occurred. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think there's really much in here. I don't know, do we need to do a rescinding motion at the next meeting for the resolution in here regarding the tip land, if there's going to be possibility of another location for that Telstra tower?
Yes, but through the chair, we've started that project. Like we've sent out information up to the state about the compulsory acquisition process as requested.
Yeah.
If it was to not be required, then I'd suspect that we possibly would just finalise it to say it's not required anymore, rather than a rescission motion. We can put a line through it at another point in time.
All right, thank you.
Hey, anyone else?
Yeah, just Brogawalla Road, it's finished now. Drop off the status report, is that right? It's on page 188.
The land, yes.
It's all there.
Yeah, it's with the owner.
It's been finalised.
From our perspective, it has absolutely, yeah. So the landowner needs to put it on the deed of. Yeah, it's a private matter between them and their. So yes.
And with the industrial land, when does the successful tender has indicated when are they going to start?
Yeah, so the document's been prepared for contract now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. All right, item 14.8, City Water Technology Report Update. The recommendation for council note the information within the City Water Technology Update Report. Moving to seconder, Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to the Director for the report. That is what our words after, and I think it is important, as I said last month, that or a couple of months ago, that the public, particularly those concerned about quality, can see that we are actively addressing things. I've just had questions for the Director on 3 of the recommendations, if I may. Recommendation number 3. So the original CWT report rated that as a high priority, and in the comments it said this recommendation is currently not considered a priority. So I take it that's just we have a different opinion to what CWT had about how high that priority is, and I just wonder if you can comment on the difference between their rating and our rating.
Through the chair, the recommendations from City WaterTech are solely on water quality with regard to the manganese issue. So if you want to look at that and that only, then it probably would be a high priority to say, well, we need to spend tens of thousands of dollars on an online instrumentation with feedback control into our water control system to say, well, this is what we need. Hence my previous report saying that for the other recommendations on water security and water safety that need to be considered. Hence, in this table, I put the priority and said water quality. So some others, when you compare them to the Drinking Water Management System Improvement Plan that I provided last time, the urgency of the recommendations could be quite different, varying between water quality and water safety or water security. So therefore, I did not consider that a high recommendation to undertake.
No, thank you. The next one is recommendation 7, and I was just a little bit confused about the wording here. The original recommendation says regularly take soluble manganese samples, and in the comments it says samples were sent to external lab for comparison. So I'm just a bit confused about whether that is just a one-off or the original recommendation suggests we need to do it regularly and ongoing. And I was just a bit confused about that. Is it a one-off or is it an ongoing thing?
Through the chair, I omitted actually to update on the first part of this recommendation. So it says regularly take soluble manganese samples of filtered water at the water treatment plant and in the reticulation. Measure soluble and total manganese on the spectrometer at the Oberon water treatment plant and send samples to an external lab for testing manganese. So I actually only updated on the last little bit, considering the first given. So I omitted that. And that was done at a one-off and showed good to reasonable agreement. And sending something off to an external lab regularly, that's quite costly. Hence, to me, it confirmed that what we measure is a good representation on what's in the water.
Thank you. And the final one is the next one, 8, about the pigging of the mains. So the recommendation said conduct pigging from the water treatment plant to the laundromat and continue to the east side of town. And that report was done in late 2023. The comments here say not considered necessary as the full system was pigged in 22-23, which was prior to the report. So I had taken that recommendation to mean that we should do that section again because we were continuing to have those problems. So again, I've just asked if the Director could comment on why we've decided not to do that.
Through the chair, my understanding when talking to City WaterTech, when I spoke to them, they didn't seem to be quite aware of the amount of pigging that we had done. When I looked at it myself, I understood that the whole water distribution system was undertaken. So from my point of view, I cannot see a necessity to do that again for a specific part of the installation only versus not others.
Right, so CWT weren't aware that that had already been done.
That was my understanding from the communication we sent when I discussed the report.
Okay, thank you, Director. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Hope.
Yes, thank you to our technical services director for this. This is just a simple, straightforward. And I did want to bring up number 8 as well, because I was under the impression after we actually had the first lot of digging done, there were discussions, and the company that did that digging stated that Oberon's reticulation system, because it hadn't had any digging done for a numerous amount of years, that there was a lot of build-up within the pipes, that it would have been beneficial to do it again the following year and then every second year after that. So that's what, yeah, they were the conversations that were had at the time. So we haven't had major manganese issues in quite a few months now. The weather's cooled off, but I'm sure it'll all come back start December, January again. But I think we need to be on top of our water system fully. So thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Kevin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just well, let's start with recommendation 3. I appreciate exactly what the Technical Services Director has said. I just wonder, as this obviously this document goes on to, well, it's on public exhibition. I would have thought that this recommendation is currently not considered a priority : and then have several bullets as to the reasons why not, would be a little bit more appropriate. Bearing in mind that there's nothing there that, and I know that the director's full report looks at it, but I'm just thinking that a couple of bullets there with the pertinent reasons might be a little bit more beneficial to us as councillors and to those looking at reading this report outside this council meeting. Similarly with, say, recommendation 7, I too had the question of, like Councillor Tackle, frequency. I actually was under the impression we did send samples, not weekly, but some period to have them evaluated. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Technical Services Director, I think you said we've only sent them once in this related regard, isn't it, just to verify our results?
Through the chair, we sent them once on various locations. I cannot recall the number of locations, but yeah, it was once.
So you don't believe it's necessary to do it yearly or anything else? Once is sufficient from your experience?
Through the chair, we do test manganese regularly, as in 6 monthly, I believe, as the wider same thing that is done, the physical chemical properties of our water as part of the New South Wales health requirement, and it includes manganese as well. So it is done regularly to some extent in the reticulation anyway. Right.
I realise, I fully appreciate we do it, and we're happy that. So we've done one external laboratory, I suppose, at NAPA or whatever registered, and they've done they've looked at the results, and we've looked at the results, and they're happy. And there's not a recommendation to do it once a year or anything like that, from your perspective.
Through the chair, they provided the reports, the results to us, and we compared them to our own results. And regularly testing is done 6 monthly anyway, as part of the physical chemical properties.
Oh, I realise we do it 6 monthly. Yeah, so you're happy that we don't need
the wider report, including manganese.
Okay, you're happy we don't need independent assessments more frequently than the one we've had.
Yeah.
And in recommendation, in recommendation 8, or sorry, in item 8, I note what's been said, but that there was some disconnect in the original CWT report in what was in the summary and what was in the content of the report in relation to pigging, and you're fully satisfied that what we've done in 22-23 was sufficient, and that there can be no other justification for picking this system again in the immediate future. That's your belief. Okay. In item 9, I know it says complete. But I don't think we can actually use the words complete, because these are obligations, or these are suggestions that are actually placed on the customers. And I don't know that we can verify what the customers have done.
Through the chair, the reason why it's complete is it says that suggests customers too, which we forwarded on to customers relating to this, which is probably why they're complete.
So we've completed the suggestion.
Yes,
Right.
because I don't think that we can do anything else in that regard.
So I would be suggesting that we clarify this and say, advice has been provided to customers as outlined or something. Okay. Apart from those comments that I've made and the questions I raised, I was relatively happy.
Anyone else? Put the motion, all those in favour? Motion is passed. All right, there's no urgent business. We will, in accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993 and Local Government General Regulations of 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following businesses of the kind as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with in part of the meeting close to the media and the public. So I wish you good night to all. Good night, both of you. 8 o'clock, we are coming out of confidential and back into normal open council. During the period of time that we were in closed council, we made 2 resolutions. Item 16.1, a water write-off request. And the recommendation was that council do not write off the water consumption charges for assessment 1236406, but instead offer a payment plan arrangement for full cost recovery. The second item was section 356 requests. And the recommendation was that council support the recommendations contained in this report. And we will be providing $1,500 to the Oberon Business and Tourism Awards and $2,000 to the Can Assist charity. That concludes this meeting of council, and we're closed at 8:01. The next council meeting will be on the 2nd Tuesday in August, which is the 13th of August at 5:30 p.m. in the council chambers. Thank you, councillors, and thank you anyone who's still on Zoom. Done. Stop recording.